Hi, I'm Junni, Grandmaster ADC and Zeri main. Welcome to my Season 15 extended mini guide. We're gonna start with runes, and the two that I like to focus on are PTA and Conq. Just to briefly touch on Fleet and Lethal Tempo. Fleet is a safe and the most consistent rune in terms of active usage, but offers no bonus damage. As for Lethal Tempo, I mentioned last guide why it's overrated. If you prefer it, sure, but we're here to break down more specific tech. I also explained PTA last guide, but it's still worth noting that this is the highest damage rune you can run, and it's best into a double tank comp, especially if one of those tanks is support. Enemy tank jumps into the front line, Q them 3 times, and now you have an 8% damage boost until you're out of combat. In most of my recent games, I've been running Conq, and it's not for the AD it provides, but the healing. Similar to the way PTA amps all of our damage, Conq would provide healing from all our damage dealt. Some of you might be asking, would it take a long time to stack, even more than Lethal Tempo? And the answer is no. You can stack Conqueror pretty quickly based on your mechanical mastery in the sense of passive auto attacks. Last guide I mentioned that weaving in passive auto attacks between Qs makes a big difference in TPS, especially in early game. But the best part here is that the passive auto attacks count as 2 stacks and can be woven after Q with no downtime at all. Now regarding secondary trees, the best ones to run are Sorcery or Inspiration. So if running Sorcery, I take Axiom Arcanist or Absolute Focus, and I take Gathering Storm. Axiom Arcanist is best into tanky short range teams because it amps the chain lightning damage and works super well in tandem with PTA and Cutdown. That said, there's zero value in 1v1s because there's no chain lightning without a second target, but it will apply via minions, monsters, and champion summons. Now if you're running Inspiration, nearly all of the options are great, but to keep it simple, I've been running Cashback and Jack of all trades. These two runes in tandem feel really good because I have Cashback for item scaling, and Jack of all trades to have a little extra AD in an otherwise utility focused tree. So there are 2 new build paths I've had success with in ranked, but before I get into those builds, I wanted to talk about Statikk Shiv and Yuntal as first item. Statikk Shiv is best built in games where you're behind or playing against high range matchups where farming is difficult, and Yuntal is best built in games where you're ahead or playing to scale in less volatile lanes. Comparing both items, Statikk has way better early tempo, but Yuntal has better scaling and is easier to transition into crit. That being said, the most common second item is Runons. The reason is because you cap out on attack speed by second item, and it's great synergy with Zeri's kit when paired with her R to increase team fighting DPS. On top of that, both Statikk and Yuntal work well with Runons based on their passives. Runon bolts proc all 3 charges of Statikk in teamfights and reduces the CD of Yuntal quicker. It's not bad, but in my experience it's felt like I'm chewing peanuts when I've built this, especially for Statikk's path. The transition to the rest of your build doesn't feel great because IE is delayed to 3rd as well as LDR being pushed back to 4th. Having to reach your main damage items by 4th as well as 75% crit chance doesn't feel great. Now regarding my personal builds that I've had success in ranked, both having the same first 2 items, these builds are IE Runons, BT Shield Build Black Cleaver, and IE Runon's LDR Edge of Night BT. Now you might be wondering, why IE first? Doesn't it feel bad having no attack speed early? What's the difference? To start, the actual build path is the AD components of IE into Runon's attack speed components, complete IE, and then Runon's. Yeah, it sounds hella weird, but if you think about it, Statikk is bought mostly for cost efficiency and wave clear, and Yuntal is essentially a stat stick for Zeri. So for the sake of scaling, I'd rather just invest 2175 gold for 65 AD and let that serve as a semi-item, than Runon's components for the attack speed. This way we're investing a similar amount of gold for slightly different but more relevant stats, and then spike hard once we achieve our 2 items. It hits way harder than the standard build path and allows for both flexibility as well as prioritization of needed items ASAP. I do sometimes purchase IE before attack speed components, but it really depends on how ahead I am. If I snowball hard, then I will just complete IE if hitting empowered Ws are really easy. If I reset on BF pickaxe without enough gold for IE, then I'll just purchase the attack speed components, which is what will usually happen. Now, regarding the lesser amount of attack speed in this build, as your nuns will serve as our only attack speed item aside from boots, there's no point in capping out on attack speed if we don't have any meaningful damage on our queue. We also have ults for attack speed, and most fights you take would be during your ult. As for the rest of the build, it's dependent on if your team does or doesn't have peel for you and how that affects you in team fights. So build 1 in games where your team doesn't have peel for you, so you just need to fight to the death together. Hence the BT 3rd item for survivability, Shobo 4th for crit for DPS, and the shield for to really commit to fights, and Cleaver for some HP and armor shred. Build 2 in games where you have peel so you can afford to run full damage ASAP, and then the Edge of Night followed into BT. Following this order also helps you complete Jack with the seal caps as your boot item. So you sit on D-Blade until you're ready to build BT, and on the Serrated Dirk you would complete your Jack stats. Just to quickly brief you guys on laning phase, you'd have a much better time focusing on farm rather than fights until level 6. What I do is I just perma hit the wave, and I don't mean in the sense of shoving the wave every single time, but I mean clearing the wave just a little faster than the enemy to seize better fighting opportunities. By doing this, you won't have to worry about enemy minions blocking your Qs. It makes fighting feel way easier. So in the situations where you will be forced to fight pre-6, short trades are best. Zeri's damage comes out more bursty than it does DPS, especially in the early stages of the game. So look to play off of your cooldowns like your W and fully charged passive. Whether it's in early game or late game, position by the wall to be able to escape via E and to be prepared for empowered Ws. If you're looking to trade into the enemy, and of course depending on the matchup, try to avoid being in the middle of the wave, and instead be on the side of it to have a more open space to decide hitting either the enemy champ or wave. Because it's so hard for Zeri to clear in those super early stages of the game, taking fights is rough, which is why it feels better to wait until you have your ultimate or items. That is the end of this video though. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. But you know, otherwise, good luck on the Rift. Okay, bye bye.